So I just inherited a house in Georgia. What do I do now? Hey guys, I'm Brad, the Probate House Guy. Thanks for checking out this video today. By the way, I am an active real estate investor and a licensed real estate agent in the state of Georgia. And over the last 10 years, I have helped over 300 sellers get their property sold, whether that's a cash deal or listing it for them in the traditional fashion. I made all these videos because we've learned a thing or two about probate and estates over the last 10 years, and I'm just sharing my knowledge with you. By the way, I am not an attorney, nor do I claim to be an attorney, so please don't take anything that I say as legal advice. I highly suggest that you consult with a probate attorney or even a real estate attorney to discuss your unique situation and get some real legal advice from them. If you'd like to chat with us about the options on the property that you've inherited, we'd be happy to talk to you about that. You can go over to probatehouseguy.com and fill out the form there on the page, and a member of our team will be in touch with you ASAP. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Thanks. Hey, so you just inherited a house in Georgia. What do you do? Great question. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the 3 things you need to keep in mind when you've inherited a house in Georgia. Number 1, first of all, you need to verify the condition of the home. So that needs to be the first thing that you do. If you haven't had laid eyes on this home, you need to either do it yourself or you need to get somebody to do it. You need to get over to that house and verify the condition of the home, make sure that it's secured, make sure it's locked up, make sure that you've got utilities turned on or turned off. If you're in the heat of summer and the dead of winter, I would make sure that you keep the heat on or the air conditioning on, keeping the heat on, make sure your pipes don't freeze and that sort of thing. I would also, if it's in the dead of winter and no one's living there, I would make sure that you go ahead and just winterize the house, drain all the pipes down, even if you've got the heat on. That way, you know that no pipe is going to freeze, because trust me, I've had pipes freeze at house and it's not cheap. Additionally, in the dead of summer, it's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. You're in Georgia. It's very humid here in Georgia. You want to make sure that you've got the AC running or you've got dehumidifiers running, because you don't want humidity getting too high in that house, because humidity and stagnant air leads to mold growth. And really anything above 60% relative humidity can lead to mold growth. So you want to make sure that you keep the humidity under control at the very least. If no one's living in the house, you can kind of turn the AC up a little bit. But if you only have an air conditioner, air conditioners dehumidify as a byproduct of air conditioning. So the higher you turn the thermostat, the less it's going to run. Therefore, it's not dehumidifying the house. So you want to keep that in mind. That's why I always recommend a separate dehumidifier. Make sure you control the humidity in the house. Make sure you're verifying your water is turned off, that sort of thing. Make sure that you just look around for any hazards in the home. And then obviously you want to take into account, keeping the grass cut and that sort of thing, in case, you've got code enforcement, giving you tickets and stuff for too high of grass, hazards, stuff like that. And additionally, you want to pay attention to insurance. You want to make sure that you have an active insurance policy on that property, especially one that covers a vacant house. Most people don't realize that, but vacant houses sometimes is an exclusion in a policy. So you want to make sure that your policy has vacant house coverage if no one is living in the house. By the way, I bought a property last year from a guy, and his dad had passed away and the insurance had lapsed on the house. There was a tenant living in the house, and the tenant either accidentally, he thinks they intentionally flooded. I don't know what happened. I don't have all the facts, but either way, the house flooded due to a plumbing mishap and literally ruined everything in the house, because the flood happened on the upstairs, on the second floor of the house, and flooded everything downstairs, everything down in the basement. It was a mess. He didn't have insurance to pay to mitigate all that, and the tenant moved out, so then he lost the renter. And then he had to deal with all of the mold and the drywall falling down and all the things, and it was just too much for him to handle. So we ended up buying this house from him, and we had to not completely gut the house, but mostly gut the house. And then I had to pay for a mold remediation company to come in and do all this work. All of that work was $17,000 to do all the demolition and remediation work in this house to get rid of all the mold and all those things. It's not cheap. And then we had the problem after the fact where some people came in and stole copper when the walls were open and broke into the house, and it turned into quite a fiasco. So make sure that you secure the house. Make sure that you change the locks. Make sure that everything's locked up. I would also put a lockbox on the house with a key in it. That way, if someone else needs to go check on the house, they're not dependent on you having to go meet them over there to give them the key. The key is already kind of over at the house and it's in a lockbox with a code. You can go get a lockbox at the hardware store, at Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever they sell lockboxes. You can either get one that hangs on the door, or you can kind of screw it on the wall and put the key inside with a little code. It's got a little 4-digit code. We obviously do lockboxes all the time in our business because I don't want to have to go meet somebody over to the house and unlock the house for them. So anyways, so there's that. Make sure the house is secured. Okay, now the second thing you want to do once you've confirmed everything is secured, everything's good conditionally with the house, is you want to kind of figure out ownership of the house. And you're like, what do you mean? What about ownership? I know my dad owns the house. Well, did your dad... Is his name on the deed? Were there other names on the deed? That's the most common problem we deal with in our business, which is that there might have been multiple people on the deed, or someone transferred ownership sometime in the past and they didn't do it properly, especially via quitclaim deeds. By the way, it's quit with a T, not quick, like, a quickness. It's quitclaim deed. A lot of people do these DIY quitclaim deeds and they're not done properly, therefore they are not recognized as a valid means of title transfer. So we end up having to unwind all that and fix all that. So make sure that you verify ownership, and the best way to do that is to go look up the deed in the deed records. Nowadays in 2026, almost every single county in the state of Georgia is part of GSCCCA, which is the Georgia State Clerk of Courts Association, and they all of their deed record data goes into GSCCCA, and you can use that website to search. So if you go to gsccca.org, you can actually go on there and search for deeds. There's no address search. Well, there is, but it doesn't work very good. You have to kind of know the name. So I would do a name. You would go to real estate, name search, and then do last name, comma, first name. You can choose the county from the drop-down menu. And then you're going to look through that and you're going to look for warranty deeds or quitclaim deeds in there. And then additionally, also look for security deeds. And what's a security deed? Well, that means when you get a mortgage on a house in Georgia and there's a loan on it, typically the lender is getting a security deed from the owner. So I would look for security deeds. I would look for open security deeds, which means there's not a release for that security deed. And usually they'll cross-reference in GSCCCA. So if you see a security deed, they'll have a little note at the bottom that says release, and it'll give you a deed book and page number, and you can go look at that page and it'll, show you that particular deed was released. If there is not a corresponding release on that, more than likely there is an open loan on that if you weren't already aware of that, which means you should probably contact the bank and let them know that this person has passed away. Let them know that, you're going to be selling the house. Let them know you're going through probate. And by the way, you're probably still going to need to make the payment during that time. Most of the time, they're not going to give you a break on the payment. You're going to have to continue to make the payment during that time. So make sure that you pay the payment and you make sure that you pay the taxes, right? So so that's number 2, which is figure out ownership and then figure out the financial situation on the house in terms of, loans, liens, taxes, all those sort of things, right? Utilities. You want to figure all that out. Okay. Now, the last thing that you want to take into account when you've inherited a house is what are you going to do with the house, right? In order to sell it, in most cases, you're going to have to go through probate in the state of Georgia. Whether, some people are like, well, I have a will and it says here on the will that I'm the executor and I can sell it. Yeah, but you still have to take that will and you have to probate that will with the probate court. So you have to submit that will to the probate court, and the probate court has to deem that will as valid or not. And once they've deemed whether that will is valid, they're going to issue what's called letters testamentary, which basically just grants you the legal authority to, sell assets on behalf of the estate, open and close bank accounts. Basically gives you as a representative of the estate, the power to do all of those things. I'm not going to get into all the details as to what's a valid will, what's not. We're not going to get into that in this video, nor are we going to get into all the different ways that you petition for probate. I'm not doing that here. I'm just talking about opening a probate. If there was no will, then you're going to have to do what's called an administration. So you're going to petition for letters of administration. Letters of administration at the end of the day basically kind of do the same thing as letters testamentary. They're just granting that person the authority to act on behalf of the estate. And there's a few more steps involved with an administration compared to a situation where there's a will. So once you've got your letters of administration in your hand, that means you have the legal power to sell that property, open bank accounts, basically all the things that an executor can do. I'm, kind of very simplifying this here. Obviously, you should consult with an attorney about this, but that's what you're going to have to do. And once you can have the legal power to sell that house, then you got to figure out what you're going to do with it, right? Are you going to keep it? Keep it in the family? Are you personally going to keep it? Well, if there are other heirs involved, they need to be on board with you keeping it. Secondly, is there a mortgage on the house? Now, if you're a surviving spouse, there is a federal law that basically allows you to continue to pay that mortgage and live in that house, and the bank cannot foreclose on you. They can't take that away from you, right? You can continue to live in that house. And I think it also applies to family members as well. But either way, you probably want to consult an attorney about that. But I'm almost certain I am certain that definitely applies to spouses. So if you're going to keep it, you need to make sure that the mortgage is paid, the taxes are paid, that sort of thing. And then additionally, if you're going to keep it in the family, like I said, all the heirs need to be on board with whoever is going to take it over, and they may or may not need to be compensated depending on your agreements. Obviously, if there's a debt on the house, then that debt's going to have to be paid. If your sister is going to take the house, then somehow your sister has to figure out a way to get the money to pay off the mortgage on the house, and then they can take ownership. So if there's debts involved, you need to consult with your attorney about how those debts would be handled. Additionally, maybe you want to rent it out. Well, I'm going to have a stern conversation. I'm looking you right in the eye right here. Do you really want to be a landlord? This is a tough question you need to ask yourself. Do you really want to be a landlord? Because I'm a landlord, and I can tell you it's not as easy as people make it out to be. Not everybody's cut out to be a landlord. I've bought a lot of houses from a lot of people who thought they wanted to be landlords and quickly figured out that they don't like being a landlord. Okay. So if you're not sure about that, maybe you should err on the side of caution and say, maybe not, right? Or you hire a property manager to manage the property for you, which, by the way, not all property management companies are created equal. There's good ones and there's bad ones out there. So let's talk about that. So renting that. Now, finally, selling the house. How do you sell it? Well, you got 3 ways to sell a house, right? You can sell for sale by owner. You can sell with an agent in the traditional fashion, or you can sell to an investor like me. And actually, I've done all 3. Yeah. Pretty crazy, huh? So I have my agent license. I've been a licensed agent now since 2017. I hang my license with One Source out of Woodstock. So I have the perspective of understanding the agent world, and I can put my agent hat on and talk about that. Or I can talk about an investor. As an investor, I have purchased, I think at this point, we're over 350 homes in the last 10 years from sellers all over the state of Georgia and in some other states too. And then I have also sold 2 homes for sale by owner. My last 2 personal homes, I actually sold them off market before they ever went on the market to I'm not going to get into situations, but people that I heard of and whatever in my close circle ended up buying the house from us. So we structured the deal. I found a contract. I got a contract through a family member of mine who is a real estate agent for 40 plus years. And she helped us kind of do the contract. And then we got a closing attorney to handle the closing and facilitated all that stuff. I've done 2 houses that way. So I've done all 3. So I have the unique perspective of doing all 3. And some of our investment properties, we sell them kind of by owner, or I sell them as the agent, right? So what I'll tell you right now in terms of selling the house, you need to make sure that you and all of the other heirs are on board as to how you're going to sell the house and why you're going to sell it that way and what the house is worth. I would say the number one conflict between heirs is the value of the assets, particularly the house, because there's always that one, heir that thinks the house is worth way more money than it really is. And they end up holding the whole thing up because they want to list the house for, $400,000, and the house is really only worth like $350,000. And the house ends up sitting on the market and it doesn't sell. I'm making this video in 2026. The real estate market that we're dealing with today, honestly, is probably one of the toughest real estate markets I've dealt with in the last 10 years. It's slowed down a lot. Buyer traffic has come to a standstill. Interest rates have gone back up with the Iran war situation, and gas prices are high, and no one's buying anything right now. The worst thing you can do right now in this market right now is overprice your house. And I still see it every day. People will list houses and they will overprice the house, and it will sit on the market and it will not sell. And then they're blaming their agent and they're blaming that. But really, at the end of the day, their price is just too high. They listed it too high, or their brain is still in 3 years ago when we were in the peak real estate market and prices were at an all-time high, and they think that today's market is the same as it was 3 years ago, and it's not. So make sure that you understand that. You cannot overprice the house. Additionally, how are you going to sell it? Like I said, first of all, if you do for sale by owner, the biggest mistake most people make for sale by owner is they list it for too much money. Additionally, one thing you have to keep in mind with for sale by owner houses is that you're not getting the same amount of traffic and eyes on it as you would if you had it listed with an agent, because a lot of buyers agents who are helping their buyers shop for homes, generally either don't know about or they will not show a house to a for sale by owner house to their clients because they are afraid or they know that they're not going to get paid. And you can argue, well, they should do that regardless. Well, at the end of the day, they're doing a lot of work. And if you don't get paid to do a lot of work, why would you do it, right? You got to think about human nature here. Okay, so make sure that you keep that in mind, right? That you may not give as much traffic on your home if you do it for sale by owner. Yeah, you save on the commissions, but what I'll tell you right now, do you know how to get the most money for your house? And I'm going to tell you this as an agent and an investor, right? I'd love to buy your house for cash. Obviously, I'm doing that for profit. But the best way to make the most money for your house is to get it ready for sale, get it cleaned up, get it looking nice, replace all of the big ticket items that need to be fixed. Don't expect a buyer to be okay with having to replace a roof 3 years after they move into their brand new house and spent more than they've ever spent in their entire life on a house. And then now they've got to replace your 20-year-old roof. Just because it's still okay today doesn't mean it's going to be still okay tomorrow. The same goes with HVAC units. I get people that, oh, it's a 20-year-old HVAC unit, but the AC still works great. Well, it works great today, but then it could go out tomorrow and it doesn't work great. So statistically speaking, a newer HVAC system is probably going to last longer than an older one, right? So you got to keep that in mind. Make sure you're replacing those things. Additionally, you got to get it ready for sale. You got to declutter it. You need to clean all the junk out of the house. You need to get it clean. You need to fix kind of the major repair items. And if you do all those things and you take good professional photographs of this property and you list it with a good real estate agent, don't just hire your cousin Susie because she has a real estate license, but she actually, works over at the pickle farm during the day, but she has a real estate license on the side. Don't hire cousin Susie to list the house for you. You need to hire someone who knows that neighborhood, who knows that area well, who's a good agent in that area, because it's going to be worth the money. They are going to be able to get that house sold for you compared to somebody who doesn't quite know what they're doing. So you're not actually saving any money by going with a discounted agent or what. It doesn't work that way. Trust me. I've been doing this for a long time, done a lot of real estate transactions, and I can tell you that. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an agent. I'm saying that because I can see the full picture. Okay. So make sure that you're listing it with a good agent, and you will always get top dollar for that house. You will get the most money you've ever gotten out of a house if you go that route. Now, by the way, if you want to go the investor route, that, in my opinion, is the easiest route to take, the least amount of headaches, the fastest way to get it closed. You know that it's going to get sold. Well, I would say, there's a lot of investors out there that are making offers on houses and they'll cancel the contract. So once you're past the due diligence period in their contract, then you're generally pretty good that they're going to close on the house. But people have been known to cancel contracts during due diligence, so make sure you watch out for that. But if you're going the investor route, that's the easiest route. You can sell it with everything in it. Probably 90% of the estate probate deals that we do come with a house full of stuff. They don't want any of the stuff. They take what they want out of the house and they leave the rest for us to get rid of. We do a lot of junk removal in that aspect. And then additionally, we're going to close in 2 weeks. We're going to close whenever you want to close. We'll close with a notary. You don't have to deal with the buyer on the other end having their own personal stipulations. We're pretty flexible in that standpoint, but that comes at a cost, right? We're in a business to make a profit. I have to make a profit. So some people are like, oh, Brad, you lowball on houses and da-da-da-da. I'm not lowballing. I'm literally, it's a math problem. It's what can I sell this house for? how long and how much is it going to cost me to hold this house. I've got insurance, I've got taxes, I have interest to my private, I have money partners that loan me money. We don't borrow money from banks. We borrow money from private individuals. I pay them interest on their money to use their money to be able to buy lots of houses. And we have all of our holding costs. Our insurance has gone through the roof, just like your insurance has gone through the roof. Utilities, all that stuff. Additionally, we have to, when we sell the house, we're generally, nowadays in 2026, we are paying buyers' closing costs in most cases, whereas a few years ago we were not. So we've got about 3% for that. And then I'm an agent and I list my own houses. So I'm only paying 3% in commissions to sell the house versus 6% like you might. Because I'm only paying the buyer's agent commission. I'm not taking a commission on the transaction. So I have that. So I have all those costs. And then I have the cost to get it ready to sell, the rehab costs, the construction costs, the whatever cost. I have all of those. And then I have to make a profit. So what can I sell it for? What's it going to cost me to hold it? What's it going to cost me to sell it? What's it going to cost me to renovate it? And what do I want to make in profit? And then that last number that's left over at the bottom is what I offer you on the house. That's the secret formula. That's the magic sauce. And some people get upset that we're lowballing them, but it's literally just a formula. And I have a certain amount of profit I need to make. Otherwise, I just don't do the project. It's not worth my time. I've learned that over time. Additionally, this year, I have gotten stung multiple times in the last year because the market has changed a lot. And we ended up taking some losses on some houses that we were projecting to make a profit. And we ended up losing money because things didn't work out the way that we thought, right? So there's all of those things that go into effect. That all comes at a cost, but we make it easy and we can help you get out of that property quick. So anyways, I know this was a long video, but this is kind of a complicated topic, and this is kind of the highest in the hierarchy of topics. So I wanted to cover this. So if you're interested in selling the property, like I said at the beginning of the video, you can go over to probatehouseguy.com, or you can go to arborviewhomebuyers.com and fill out the form there on our website, and we'll get in touch with you ASAP, and we can talk about your options with the house, whether we're going to make you a cash offer on it or whether you want to list it. Happy to talk to you about both of those things. So thanks again for checking out this video. I'm Brad, the Probate House Guy. Have a good day. Bye-bye.